Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. And yes, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And what am I talking about here? I'm talking about slowing down. So this past week, I guess a week ago now, Thanksgiving, and the in-laws came into town. And if in-laws are listening to this, love you guys. This is not smack talk on you guys. This is a learning lesson for yours truly. But you know, they're getting older, getting closer to approaching 80. And regardless of how great of shape you are, because they're super healthy and active, still play tennis and all that, but they're still just slow, comparatively speaking, to a 45-year-old. And I like to get stuff done quick. Like we had a big party. We hosted 28 people. And if you guys have ever hosted 28 or 30 people at Thanksgiving, you know, there's a lot to get done. And I'm fine with that. Lauren and I have hosted lots of parties. We host Thanksgiving here every year for that amount of people. I got a kind of routine down, if you know what I mean. If you've ever hosted a party or done anything where you've done something over and over again, you know it needs to be done. You can do it pretty quickly. You kind of got a system in place, and I do. And bless them, my in-laws were trying to help me out. You know, we had tables to move and all that, and these are tables that are fairly light. I can pick them up pretty quickly, get them down, get the chairs there, like, you know, put the coolers out. And her dad really wanted to help. It's my father-in-law, and he's just slow on a lot of the things just because of age. And I kept saying, Tom, I don't need your help. I can just do this. And he really wanted to help. So it's slowing me down. So I'm finding myself getting irritated as he's helping me, right? It's so sad, but he's helping me with these tables, and you know, he's kind of taking one slow step at a time. And I'm like, dude, I'll put this over my head. I can run this thing down. Let's move it. We got a lot of stuff to do before the guests get here, and I still got to shower and all that. And afterwards, I just found myself, I was like, man, I was getting mad at them, and just not mad, just I was really frustrated at my in-laws for wanting to help, which shame on me, right? Don't get to see it that often. It ended up being a fantastic, just beautiful weather day here in Central Florida, and everyone had a blast. And I don't know, that was kind of lesson number one. So shortly after that, I've been getting back into jogging a little bit, and even just walking every day. And this is another one where I'm trying to just do stuff fast. I've had a lot on my plate, trying to hit a lot of big goals here at the end of the year that I had set, January of this year. And I'm finding myself a little bit behind. So when I find myself a little bit behind, I start rushing. I mean, this is the whole theme of the podcast, right? Is to slow down. And so, God, I don't even have time to stretch anymore, right? So you could probably guess where this is going. So I woke up the other day and just had this like massive pain in my leg, and I know it's from not stretching and starting to jog and starting to just move around too fast. And now I'm finding myself to the point I can't even jog. It's literally that much pain because once again, I didn't take the time to do the stretching, did the stuff I know I'm supposed to do every single time before I get out there and start running and putting that kind of impact on my body. And here I am now in more pain, and probably have to take a little bit of maybe a week or so off of doing those activities that I love doing and makes me feel really good, all because I didn't slow down to do it right. Now, I talked about, with Chris McAllister, if you remember that episode, for those of you who are listening to all of these or a big chunk of these, Chris McAllister came on and he talked about our identity fears. And every person, no matter who you are, has some identity fear, meaning it's some sort of fear or trigger that happens in all of us. And when it does, that's when we get a little bit insecure. That's when we start rushing things, when we start making bad choices. And for me, my identity fear is the lack of poor performance, meaning like not hitting goals, right? Losing momentum, not growing. And so when I feel like I'm not hitting my performance goals, that is when I get into a rush job, right? I rush everything. I get insecure. I start making bad choices essentially, and everyone's different. Like I said, there's 7 of them. But I'll name a few of the other ones off the top of my head. Is fear of being like replaceable, meaning you're always worried that, man, I'm just going to be replaced, whether it's in relationships or jobs or whatever. That there's always someone better than me, and I'm gonna not be needed or loved or wanted anymore. One, just the fear of bad outcomes that just, oh my gosh, well, what if this, what if this, what if this, where you start almost kind of digging yourself into a hole about something that hasn't even happened yet. But it's an identity fear a lot of people share, and they're all kind of similar like that. But there's usually some sort of little trigger. And for me, with my identity fear, it's this lack of poor performance, and it's usually because I've set some sort of goal. Like I want to be at some certain, let's just say, place, or some sort of monetary goal, whatever it is, by a certain day and time. And the closer it gets to that certain day or time, and that goal has not happened or been achieved, and of course, people with fear of poor performance usually set pretty big goals as well. There becomes all this stress and insecurity. That's when I find myself just rushing and not slowing down. And I thought about it too after they left. We only get to see our in-laws usually twice per year. They usually come here for Thanksgiving, and then we go either to Savannah, which we did this year, and spend some time with them in Savannah, Georgia, or we'll go to the farmhouse and kind of rendezvous with them there, which is in Dublin, Georgia. And so 2 times per year. And I told my wife that, I was like, your dad is already past the point of life expectancy, if you will, for a male. I think it's at 76, 77, and he's, I think 79, will be 80 this year. And so he's already past the normal life expectancy of a man. So every extra year is awesome. I hope he lives to 100. But you never know. And I was like, we only see him twice per year. So let's just say he does make it 3 more years. So he beats life expectancy by 8 or 9 years, which would be great. That means we're only going to get to see him, like literally get to see your parents, for instance, maybe 7 more to 8 more times ever in their whole life. And when you think about it that way, right, and think about it for maybe some of your relatives, whoever it might be, and you could be the older person, right? You could be the one who's 80 and saying, well, man, I might only see my kids or my grandkids 6 more times if I only see them twice per year and I only got 3 years left to live. It really puts into perspective. And here I was, getting frustrated with my in-laws for nothing they did. They were literally trying to be helpful. It was my identity fear of this performance, right? I wanted to get stuff done quickly, and anyone slowing me down is kind of getting in my way. And I just sat there and I was like, man, I hate to waste a good moment, or could have had a conversation with them, right? Hey, tell me about your favorite Thanksgiving. And instead, I wasn't fuming, but I all I could think about was they're slowing me down from getting this stuff done. And all I wanted to do was get it done as fast as humanly possible. And I had another instance with my son, Jackson. We were trying to build something, and there was he loves building little things. He's quite the little builder, and it was trying to explain what it was. It was like a wood building kit, and it was some like little merry-go-round thing that had a battery attached to it, and it was pretty neat, but really, really small screws. And he was struggling with it, and I wanted to get the sucker done. I didn't lose it on him, thank goodness, but I was definitely losing my patience. I was like, dude, let me just show you how to do it. And he's like, no, Dad, I want to do it. I'm like, just let me see it. And, I start trying to screw in these screws quicker. And that was another one afterwards. I was like, man, I got to just slow down. And I hate that I wasted a cool moment with my son. And it wasn't a negative thing. I don't think it's one of these things he's going to be talking about in therapy in 10 or 20 years from now that, oh man, that one time my dad ruined that merry-go-round thing. But I noticed it just because I've been kind of on edge, noticing these little things about me trying to speed up, especially here at the end of the year when I got these goals with, Salt Strong, with goals personally that I want to hit and I just haven't hit them yet for the year. And I feel like time is ticking. And at some point, I just have to say, you know what? I did set some pretty lofty goals, and it's okay if I didn't get there. The important thing is I grow. Like if we're not growing, we're dying. So I definitely was been a growing year. Man, awesome. I should celebrate that, right? And two, did learn from it. And absolutely, failing forward is one of our internal kind of core beliefs. Meaning, if you aren't learning and failing forward, then once again, feel like you're kind of dying. And so that's definitely something I've achieved. And I go back to, man, this would have been a few years ago. I got a call from an old coworker. His name's Eddie, and I hadn't talked to Eddie in, I want to say, 3 years. So it had been that long. Not a close friend, not for any reason. Just he lives up in Georgia, and then I didn't work for that company anymore. I was now at Salt Strong, and hadn't talked to him or caught up with him or messaged him. Nothing in a good 3 years. And he called me out of the blue. And it turns out he was coming down to Florida wanting to pick my brain on something. And then we just started talking about, life and all that. And he had told me too. He's like, yeah, man, we're coming down to Florida, and I thought of you, and I felt like God was telling me just to call you. And so he kind of started off the conversation with that as well, just to give you the backstory. And we're talking about life, and I was going through a very similar period. It was towards the end of the year. He was coming down here for the holidays to Florida. And I was telling him, I was like, man, I feel like my body's falling apart. I'm just, rushing everything. And he's like, dude, he goes, I know I haven't talked to you in a while, but it sounds to me like God is telling you to slow down. And I'll never forget that, because it hit me like it was the message I needed to hear at the exact perfect time. Maybe like this message is hitting you that, hey, I need to slow down. I am hurting my body. I'm hurting relationships. I'm hurting conversations that should be happening but aren't, because I'm just rushing it. And I remember the second he said, I remember where I was sitting. It was one of those moments, because I was in full rush mode. I was in full identity fear. Man, I got to perform. I got to perform. I got to perform. If I don't, I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. That's how I was feeling inside. And so I remember just being so rushed. And as soon as he said those words, it just like stopped and everything slowed down. I was like, man, he's right. I was like, what a cool message from an old friend who literally told me he felt like God was calling just to reach out in general. Because it wasn't like he was coming to meet me or anything. He was really just picking my brain on a couple of things, and could have done it with a million other people he knows in Florida. He honestly wasn't even coming close to Winter Haven. So anyhow, that was such a good reminder. And I did slow down, just like I need to slow down now with even stretching before I go do exercise, to have better conversations with my loved ones and family and friends and coworkers, et cetera. And I've done that at work as well, right? Like we're trying to hit these goals at the end of the year, and everything's rushed. And I find myself, instead of asking, hey, how was your Thanksgiving? Or, how the kids doing in school this year? It's just straight business. And shame on me to miss some cool opportunities like that. So this podcast was meant for me, not you. And I'm obviously being facetious there. I hope this hit home with the right people. Like I pray for every one of these podcasts, but this really was something that I need to learn from, get a whole lot better at, especially here at the end of the year. It is a great time to slow down, to give thanks, to be grateful, to make sure that we kind of remind ourselves about the season. Right? Why are we celebrating Christmas? Why are we celebrating Thanksgiving? Right? Look at all the things we have to be thankful for, versus dwelling on all the things we don't have yet, or the goals we haven't hit yet, which is where I have found myself dwelling on more than I should. So once again, I hope that this message hits home, that we can all slow down and have some just amazing conversations with our family and our loved ones over the holidays. And maybe it's someone we don't know yet. Maybe it's a neighbor who's struggling, or someone who, just lost a spouse or lost a kid, or whatever it might be, that you just need some support. I mean, there's so many people struggling in America and all over the world right now that just need a little bit of love. And in the end of the day, I mean, our lives are about relationships and these conversations, and what a shame if we would waste them. So love you guys. Hopefully this hit home, and hit me up if you have any thoughts, concerns, prayer requests, etc. joe@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I'll talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.